In reality, no one can go back into the past. That's only make-believe. But we can try to learn from the past, from things that have happened to us, and try to apply them toward being better people today.
If you know this mark, you know that this is Mr. Z Black in Effect. Zoom, 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 zoom. He does that at the beginning of every broadcast, but at the end of every broadcast, he does something that I appreciate very much. It harkens back to the times when we were kids watching Sunday morning cartoons.
Remember, it's today that counts. So make it the best day possible. Until next time, this is HeMan wishing you good health and good luck.
Outro, love, peace, and chicken grease. Y'all have a great rest of y'all day. I'll pause right here. Y'all go check out other Black Manosphere content, other non-Manosphere content, for the love of God.
Back in the days before diversity, equity, and inclusion was added to our television programming, specifically our cartoons, we as young Black boys watched HeMan and not only enjoyed it, but we identified with him. And one of the things that happened on HeMan, amongst other cartoon television shows, is that at the very end, they would sneak in a lesson to teach us young boys and girls how to be better people. A very clever way to tell us that there are things more important than just enjoying this television show.
In today's story, I went in search of my mother. I found her, but I also found something else.
This is Shira doing the same thing for young girls watching HeMan that HeMan did for young boys watching it. At the end of an episode of being excited and thrilled, she reminds young girls watching the episode that there are some life principles that should be taken away, or in effect, what she's doing is grounding the audience. You might have enjoyed the episode of the show, but ground yourself in some principles so that when you go back into the real world, you're going to have something to take away from it besides anger, which is something that happens in quite a bit of media today, and especially media directed toward young ladies.
The older I get, the more I realize why older men date women that are significantly younger than them, and only because the women their age would never, ever even glance at them twice.
Now this research is saying that when you walk into the room as a mother and your children are there, they are 800% more rowdy because you are present. Why? Because they feel safe and protected by you. Dad, on the other hand, equivalent to a stranger.
If you're a very young girl thinking about getting married, can I advise you? Don't do it. Don't do it. You know what happens to you when you get married very young, 18, 19, 20, 21? At that age, you're very young, you're very impressionable.
Good. I can feel your anger.
Now there are men my age that try to approach me and I have to actively withhold the urge to spit on them. But younger me would have just died over them.
So as a mother, essentially you are carrying the family. You are doing the bulk of the emotional labor and also the bulk of the physical labor through domestic work. And yet we are constantly told that the benefit of men is that they are there to provide and protect.
You get married very young. At that age, you want to please your husband. You don't have any say in the marriage. You are literally scared of the man you're with, especially when you marry an older guy of about 35, 36. It's someone that gives you like 10, 12, 15 years. Most men that marry young girls of that age do it because they like to be in control.
Break me down with all of your hatred, and your journey towards the dark side will be complete.
When you look at many of the TikToks of young ladies lamenting the ills of men, as a guy on the downside of my RP rage, I look at that and I see young ladies unfortunately consumed with anger. Many times I would think that their anger is misplaced. It's not necessarily at all men as they claim, but it's at their expectations of what they wanted things to be with the men that they chose. Just as these young ladies are stuck in an angry state over their idealistic expectations of relationships not coming to fruition, men who are freshly in the middle of their RP raging season must heed the words of Yoda when he speaks of what anger can do to you.
But beware of the dark side. Anger, fear, aggression. The dark side of the Force I made. Easily they flow. Forever will it dominate your destiny. Consume you it will.
From how I see it, much of the consternation that we see from ladies on TikTok is that they were taught as young girls that when you're of age, you can date freely and be with the partners of your choosing and pursue your career. And sooner or later, a Disney prince is going to come along and whisk you away to a life of luxury and excitement and love on a daily basis. And when that never comes, they're stuck in their state of rage, much like many guys are when we look at today's state of dating. And instead of the kind of ladies that would be the ones that you take to your grandmother or you want to take on a date and romance, you have modern women who are doing what I explained previously, and now they're stuck in a state of rage because they're not getting the kind of guy that they want, but it's a kind of a revolving circle.
In today's story, I went in search of my mother. I found her, but I also found something else. That the man who had cared for me since I was a baby, who loved me as he would his own daughter, was just as much my father as any parent could be.
I spoke earlier about Mr. Z and the way he ends his videos as a way of grounding his audience back to the larger world besides what we talk about often. I think for many of the young ladies on TikTok, they could benefit from a voice like Shira, the way she used to ground her audience at the end of HeMan cartoons. Here she's telling young ladies that if you have a different father than the one that is maybe your birth father, you should love him as your father.
And so whether they are someone we were born to or whether they chose us to adopt, it doesn't matter. The ones who protect us and teach us and love us, they are the ones we call mother and father. And they deserve the same kind of love from us. Until next time.
Just like Shira was the character that would ground young girls and remind them the things that were important to take away from the episode, Man-at-Arms was not just the guy who grounded us when he gave us life lessons, but he was the one who grounded HeMan. When HeMan went through his difficulties, it was Man-at-Arms who was always by his side, not willing just to help him out in a pinch, but to give him much needed advice, just like he gave to us.
In today's story, He-Man used something even more powerful than his muscles to beat Skeletor. You know what it was? If you said his brain, you were right.
One of the things I lament about current day programming is that it's absent of these life lessons that we used to get from sitcoms and programs like He-Man, where He-Man, who is the most powerful man in the universe, is getting life lessons from his sidekick, Man-at-Arms, who is wiser and sees a bigger picture than He-Man does often. And when he speaks to us, we listen. And for guys that are growing up in an environment where you're not getting the opportunity to get grounded and you can get into a certain space and hear the certain kind of message on repeat, I urge guys in such situation to remember this. There is no way for me to say that your anger is not justified, because it probably is justified. And it's very easy to listen to things that make you angry, and maybe that anger is something that you carry with you. But sooner or later, you're going to have to find a way to either make use of the anger positively or find a way to get past the anger, because Yoda's told us that anger will consume you. Maybe as black men, we do have a right to be angry about certain things, but we also have to find a way to use that anger or find a way to dissipate that anger, because carrying that anger is a burden that's too heavy for any of us. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take care, guys.